Welcome to StoriesRoc. My name is Leah Ruckberg, and it's really good to see all of you here tonight for stories about the body. Our next reader, Lisa Vanderhoff, earned a degree in English from SUNY Brockport and loves to write. Her current heroine is Brene Brown because she loves her philosophy of choosing courage over comfort. She loves being near water, walking her dog in the woods, and travel. Her aspirations for the second half of life are to cultivate minimalism and mindfulness. And a little known fact about Lisa, you can check this out. She wears a lady size 13 shoe. And she's proud. Lisa will read Practice, Not Perfection.
Almost 30 years ago, my addictions brought me to my knees, and I knew I needed help. When I hit bottom, I was willing to try anything to restore sanity to my life, and the 12-step program that I belonged to recommended prayer and meditation. I read about slowing down, making friends with the monkey mind, focusing on the breath as a way to center and get grounded in my body. It sounded all good. After all, I had employed many avenues to escape over the years. I had smoked cigarettes, overeaten, starved, purged, exercised, drank, used drugs, gambled, shoplifted, watched TV, blamed others for my problems. Well, you get the picture. I had tried anything and everything in arm's reach to dissociate from what was going on inside me. But now I was going to slow down and make friends with myself. I thought that if I could sit on a cushion and twist myself up like a pretzel, maybe there was a chance in hell I could find peace. Somehow, I stumbled upon a book by the Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron called When Things Fall Apart. I read her book over and over and over, and I knew that I wanted what Pema had. When I discovered that she would be teaching a retreat at Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York, I signed up. I was so excited. When I got there, I saw Pema meandering mindfully along a path and decided to show her that her book had been instrumental in my learning process. I leapt out from behind the bush and yelled, "Look, Pema! I've read your book so much it's fallen apart!" She jumped back, yelped in surprise, and said with compassion, "That's nice, dear." The first day of the retreat, she announced that we would sit in silence for the first day and a half. The prospect of being alone with my thoughts felt so horrifying, I ended up making friends with the kitchen staff so I would have someone else to talk to. When people asked me about the retreat, I told them, well, I scared the shit out of Pema Chodron. My intention to meditate was sincere, but being still with the narratives of unworthiness that reverberated around in my head was no easy feat. Over the next many years, I tried to meditate, but jumped ship again and again, and often abandoned hope of sitting with the uncomfortable feelings of shame and failure that had built up over the years of engaging in harmful behaviors. 10 years later, I returned to Omega for a retreat with another well-known teacher, Tara Brach. I was determined to really do it this time. She began the retreat by talking about the necessity of self-compassion in developing our practice. Sadness welled up from within, and I cried for 3 days without stopping. I had no idea how I was going to stay in the moment because the moment was intolerable. I had an inner tyrant that showed up to berate me every time I tried to meditate. I went home telling myself that I had failed at self-compassion. I needed to try harder. At some point, I started pushing as hard as I could to stay busy, busy, busy. The list of things to do to get away from myself was too overwhelming to conquer, and the fatigue of trying to keep up with my escapism had me falling asleep at the wheel at 7 o'clock a.m. and clipping off the side view mirrors of my neighbor's cars. I couldn't sleep at night or stay awake during the day. My body just couldn't keep up. 4 years ago, I lost my dog, my therapist, my job, and ultimately my health in a period of 6 months. This time, I knew I had to slow down. It wasn't just a good idea, it was a make it or break it decision. Being newly unemployed and out on stress leave forced me to face myself and my demons. By some stroke of divine wisdom, I decided that meditation with a Sangha may be my last hope. Learning to meditate was more a necessity than a luxury, and both my new therapist and my sponsor were practicing Buddhists. The group that took me under their wing had all come together not so much out of curiosity, but out of a desperation to slow down and learn how to cope with the stressors in their lives. The energy of the Thoreau room was inviting. The chalice candle was lit with care in the center of the room, and there was 8 of us just sitting together in the moment, following our teacher's instruction to take deep, grounding breaths. Gorgeous, rich screens of wood, carved out to look like trees, bordered the room, and the soft lull of crickets and the occasional car speeding by could be heard outside on Winton Road. The experience was far from what I imagined it to be. In settling into my body, my chest constricted and my heart palpitated so fast that I questioned whether I was having a stroke. My forehead heated up and beads of sweat began to roll down the side of my face and dampened my hair. My teacher's loving voice dissipated in the background, replaced by the critical voice in my own head. Why didn't you just stick it out at your job? What is wrong with you crying in the dentist chair? What are you going to do with the rest of your life now? My throat closed and I couldn't breathe. I swallowed repeatedly and put my hand on my chest in an attempt to comfort myself. Was I having an asthma attack? Was my inhaler in my purse or was it in the car? I feared passing out, falling forward and setting my hair on fire with the flame from the chalice candle. I imagined the entire Unitarian Church burning down, leaving hundreds of spiritual seekers without a home, and it would be all my fault. Sometimes I would get up and go out into the hall. I was afraid my gulping for air would disturb the others. The times that I actually did stay put in the room were often filled with thoughts of Cheetos or Ben & Jerry's New York City ketchup that I was going to stop for on the way home. Staying in the present moment was far from a walk in the park, but I was determined to stick with it. I tried meditating at home on my bed in the privacy of my own space and the presence of my loving fur baby Gracie. Even there, the familiar tightness arose and my throat closed. Gratefully, along the way, I had embraced the saying, "We are only as sick as our secrets," and thus took it upon myself to reach out and share my plight with my meditation teacher, my therapist, and my AA sponsor. They assured me it would get better with practice, and thank goodness they were right. Sometimes I would position my iPad next to my head on the pillow and listen to John Kabat-Zinn lulling me with his lake meditation. I repeated the phrase, and really did this for a couple years now, "I can breathe because I am breathing right now," many times over, when the fight, flight, or freeze mode threatened to kill me. I can't remember when my throat stopped closing, and I started to be able to tell myself that the stories in my head felt real, but they weren't true. They still rattle around in there, but they are in no way as offensive as they used to be. I still think about Cheetos, and thoughts of summer sandals have been dancing in my head lately. But what has shifted is the judgment. The inner critic has somehow adapted a more compassionate voice, a voice that echoes the teachers that I listen to. Cultivating curiosity, friendliness, and humor has opened space in my life. Staying mindful isn't as scary as it used to be. When my chest tightens, and it still does, I am able to slow down and ask myself what's going on. There's more room today for life to unfold, and by releasing judgments whenever possible, my body is more relaxed. My life is simpler, my life is quieter. I nourish my body with nutritious food and I exercise regularly. I practice taking care of it with rest. Today, people occasionally ask me to help them bring stillness into their lives. I'm working on creating some exercises for the students I tutor so that we can bring mindfulness to test anxiety. The joke in my Sangha is how my long-term intention is to be able to talk to myself like I talk to my dog. Whenever we see a cat in the neighborhood that triggers her reactivity, I calmly make note of it and say, "Yep, here it is messing with your head, and soon it will go under the porch." As I say this to her, it reinforces the notion that feelings do indeed rise and fall and run their course. Today, peace manifests in my life in so many ways because I have become the type of friend to myself that I look for in others. I no longer worry about burning the church down, and I haven't clipped the side mirrors off my neighbors' cars in a long time. My life isn't perfect, but I am grateful to know that it's all about practice and not perfection.